Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review for Boardwalk Empire, Season 5, Episode 3, What Jesus Said. And this episode was fantastic. I was really into this episode. I really love the twist at the end of this episode. I wasn't expecting that at all, but out of the 3 episodes of Boardwalk Empire that aired so far, this one, in my opinion, was probably the best. It really flowed very well. I was really into this one. Just a lot of really interesting stuff was going on in this one. So let's just get to it. And like the first episode, this one is one where you have to go plot by plot. So we're going to go plot by plot with this. Let's first talk about Nucky. We'll talk about Nucky and also Margaret, because that plot actually intertwined in this episode. So we go to, we see Nucky is talking on the phone to Sally in Havana, because Sally is still in Havana, even though Nucky has come back to Atlantic City. Sally is still in Havana, and she seems to be running a very nice-looking bar, or maybe even her own hotel, and they are discussing Senator Lloyd not showing up at the Mayflower Grain Corporation meeting. But Nucky tells her of a possible new partner for his enterprise, who is a Wall Streeter named Joe Kennedy. And this is a new character, Joe Kennedy, and I really like this character. He is definitely a force to be reckoned with. He's a big threat for Nucky. He is the big fish coming down from Boston, looking to get into the liquor business. And, this song comes on, and Nucky and Sally are listening to it. Happy Days Are Here Again. They're listening to it. And he then opens his mail, and one letter has a return address, and it says Miss Nellie Bly, the Pirate Sea, en route to Kathy. So Nucky looks very concerned, because the question is it from the real Nellie Bly, one of the first female muckraking journalists? Could it be the letter that Jillian was writing from at the psychiatric ward? We don't really know what this letter is from. And I was wondering, what is that letter from? I couldn't figure out where that letter was from. So that was definitely very interesting. So in New York City, Margaret is still being questioned by some company men about Abe Redstone, and the alias that Arnold Rothstein used as her investment company. Because if you remember, Arnold Rothstein died off screen. We didn't actually see him die, she's being questioned about it. And they explained that although he died in 1928, his account was kept very much alive, and that there has been 18 cash withdrawals over the years, amounting to $11,000. And Margaret's boss, Mr. Bennett, had been, he killed himself, of course, he he had been, Sophieing, how do you pronounce it? He has been, transferring funds and, using them to play the market. But Margaret was the signer of many of the checks, and she explained that she often signed off on much of Mr. Bennett's business. And she then goes to the widowed Mrs. Rothstein, who is about to sue the firm, and they're looking for someone to take the fall. So she really wants to, find out what's going on there, and she really wants to, as I said, find out what's going on there. So then we see, what happens after that? We then see, who do we see? Oh, we saw one scene with Narcisse in this episode, which I will talk about, because it does go with, one of the plots. We'll talk about that, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Kennedy is then visiting Nucky. Now, Nucky, of course, really wanted to meet with this Kennedy guy, and he brags that he has 8 children, and Nucky claims to have 2, and mentions that his nephew is an assistant in the United States Attorney's Office in Manhattan. So Willie did get the job. So that was really good. I was happy for Willie. We didn't see Willie in this episode, but Willie did get the job. So I was happy for him that he got the job. That was definitely really good. So over veal parmesan and an offer of red wine, Nucky discovers that he doesn't drink. This is a guy that does not drink, and he says, it's hard enough doing business as an Irish Catholic, and I try my best to thwart the notion that we're all drunkards. So Nucky changes his own order to seltzer, because, here's the thing. He doesn't drink because of the fact that it's illegal right now, so he does the popular decision. Nucky, however, is of course a bootlegger, so Nucky does that, but he doesn't do that. So, and of course, if Nucky wants to get out of the gangster business, this is sort of the guy he has to be. And he's kind of realizing that I think this is kind of him realizing he doesn't want to get out of the gangster business, really. So, Margaret is then back in New York, and she sits down to tea with Mrs. Rothstein, who serves it in black, and she says, I don't keep milk in the house anymore. And Carolyn Rothstein says, it turns my stomach. And she is definitely one tough cookie because she gets right down to business and lets Margaret know that she knows all about her. Not just that she was living in a Rothstein apartment, but that her husband is Nucky Thompson. And she says, 19 years of marriage, do you know what I have for it? And she wants the money that was taken from the account. Now, Margaret says she doesn't have that kind of money. So Carolyn shoots back, your husband does, and she explained, Carolyn's ring explained she came from a treasure chest at the Egyptian theme party hosted by Margaret and Nucky years ago, a party that Rothstein attended, and the chest was hauled out and all the guests got to choose from lavish display of jewelry. And if Margaret doesn't pay up, she may have something in common with Carolyn, seeing her name in the paper next to the phrase notorious husband. So then basically what ends up happening is that Nucky is entertaining Kennedy in his burlesque club, and he's trying to persuade him to join in the bootlegging trade. He wants him to be a bootlegger because that's what Nucky is. He's used to doing that, and he's not a bootlegger though. So in the upstairs office overlooking the club, Kennedy is then talking about his kids, how he's teaching them to sail, and he calls Nucky on the fact that there are no photos or drawings anywhere from his children. And Nucky says, "What's that got to do with making money?" And he says, it's what you are making it for. And it's a very tense conversation because Nucky admits, I want to leave something behind. Kenny pours him a drink, goes off to meet with one of the burlesque dancers. And Nucky's very lonely at this point. It really shows how lonely Nucky is. That's really what this scene shows, how lonely he is. Mickey Doyle, meanwhile, is rounding up some hobos to help load Nucky's liquor trucks. And Bugsy and another friend are paying a visit to Harlem to one of Narcisse's whorehouses, because it seems Narcisse has branched out into other enterprises over the 7 years. They execute the pimp and kill all the prostitutes, and that's really the only violent scene in this episode. This episode was not filled with a lot of violence. Most of it was off screen, surprisingly. I did forget to talk about Narcisse. Narcisse had one scene in this episode. He met with Lucky and Bugsy, and Marizano wanted to continue the drug business that Marisa conducted with Narcisse, but that's not all. Marizano wants to offer Narcisse protection, and Narcisse says against what? Now, of course, Narcisse is in jail at this point. He's in prison, and Luciano explains people are losing things all over. Some guy, he's a millionaire. Next thing you know, he's settling chiclets in the streets. And Bugsy says, oh, worse. But Narcisse is not easily rattled. He says, I thank you both for your concern, and I'm sorry you came up this far for nothing. And, so Narcisse really does not want protection. He doesn't care that much, really. So, after this happens, we then see, what happens after this? Oh, Nucky then opens an envelope left for him by one of the guests. And on the postcard is a boy and a girl. And a pony cart. And the other side reads, we are here for a few weeks every summer, Maybelle Jeffries. P.S. She says, I would have let you kiss me. And the real Atlantic City boss, whom the city, is based on, that was interesting. And it's definitely interesting. Now, here's the thing. This girl, Maybelle, was actually Nucky's first wife, who died in 1913, which is really sad, definitely. And Nucky's dreaming of this moment in the present after having fallen asleep on the sofa, and he hears a noise and sees a woman singing in the dark on the other side of the room, and he says, Maybelle, and he asks, still half asleep, and then we see Margaret, and Margaret's there, and Nucky smiles, and of course, Margaret is there because of the fact that she needs the money. That's why Margaret's there, because she needs that money, and that's why she's there, because she needs it. Now, let's talk about the flashbacks, because the flashbacks actually had something to do with the main plot in this episode, which I like, because before I was like, what's really the point of the flashbacks here? And finally, we actually had a reason for why flashbacks were in this, this season, and this really related to the flashbacks. So, basically, we cut to Nucky's flashbacks, and it's a very familiar setting, and young Nucky seems to have been promoted from porch sweeper to all-around lobby boy at the Commodore's Corner Hotel, and everyone keeps saying, boy, 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 everyone just keeps calling him that. It was really weird to watch, because, you just kept seeing all these different people calling him, saying boy to him, and he's sculling around, setting up chairs on the beach, holding an umbrella over a woman in the rain, and he notices this girl around his age on vacation, and carrying flowers up to a man's room. And the man chats with him about love and asks him to bring fresh flowers every day, as if receiving an extra special tip, and Nucky gets a peek past the door at the man's beautiful naked companion inside. So then what happens is what happened after that? Sorry, guys, I'm just looking at this recap here. Basically, what ended up happening was that we see Nucky's bringing flowers to the man in the room with the naked woman again, but no one answers. And the Commodore sends him off to drive a pony cart for some vacationers. And Nucky is parked with the pony as a couple sleeps on the beach. And he sees their daughter, which is the young girl he spied on earlier in the episode. And she comes over the dunes after going to the bathroom. And she recites some lines from the Bible having to do with Nucky, who walked with God and was taken up to heaven without dying, and they discuss the passage, and she then offers Nucky 10 cents to kiss the pony, and her mother calls. She quickly turns, she said, I would give you $10 to kiss, and she says, the pony. So, yes, Nucky was rejected here, big time. I mean, I was just like, oh, shit, Nucky. Like, that is hardcore rejection right there, seriously. That hardcore rejection, because she didn't even seem like she was interested in him. Her mother calls. When she looks back, Nucky walks over the pony, plants one on his snout. He then sees the man who asked for the flowers standing on the beach. Nucky explains he had brought the flowers again, but no one answered. And the man says, be sure to get them. And obviously, Nucky's in trouble there. So that was definitely very interesting, because the thing with that plot was that, Nucky really, I felt really bad for him definitely there, because that was his first heartbreak. It really was his first heartbreak, and I really felt bad for him. And Nucky returns to Man's room to deliver the flowers, but the sheriff answered the door, and the naked woman is dead. Completely dead. She's dead. That's all there is to it. She's dead. And Nucky tells the sheriff that he saw the man in the room, on the beach south of town, to which the sheriff replies, taken care of. And he says, you caught him? And he said, I did what's right. And Nucky says he said he loved her. And then the sheriff tells him to keep the whole episode just between us. So he opens an envelope left for him by one of the guests. And this is basically how he met his first wife, Maybelle. And that was definitely very well done. As I said, that's what ended up happening there. So I liked how they made the flashback have to do with the main plot, because so far that has not been the case with this season. It's just been, they've shown a random flashback. It hasn't had anything to do with the main plot. This episode, they actually connected it to what was going on in the episode, which I really liked, because I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with Nucky and, now that Margaret's back. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. That was definitely really good. I really enjoyed that plot. Thought it was very well done. And now let's get to Chalky's plot. Chalky's plot was great. If you remember, Chalky and that guy, I think his name is Buck, that other guy in the prison, they left together. They got out of prison, basically. They got out of it. And we didn't know really where they were going to next. And we find out where they're going next. Chalky and his new partner in crime, Buck, they're entering a neat turn-of-the-century home, and first things, they're raiding the icebox, and after their chain gang escape and, long journey, they're very hungry. Buck, obviously they're very hungry. They haven't, eaten or drinking anything. They've had to do all that work and everything. And Buck drinks from an old-fashioned milk bottle, and Chalky cracks an egg into a glass and swallows it down, but they're hungry for more food. So Chalky says, you said it's safe, so where is it? And, Buck says it's somewhere. And they search the joint in the early morning light, and a teenage girl appears. This teenage girl appears. And they ask her for money, but she says, we don't have any. And she claims to be alone, so Buck pulls out a gun and accuses her of lying. And she is lying, because the girl has a mother, Marie, and she drifts downstairs as well. So that is when that's basically what had to do with this plot, was that they were in this, the whole plot was them in this house, basically. So, back to the home invasion. This actually is apparently based off of a nonfiction classic about Dick and Perry. They broke into a clutter home because Dick heard from a cellmate who had once done work on the clutter farm that there was a safe there. And Buck says that he once delivered ice to a fancy party here years ago. That the man in the house just watched him haul the 100-pound block, and all he gave Buck was, that'll do. So Buck seems to still hold a grudge because of that. So he says he saw a safe. So I thought that was interesting. We found that out, definitely. I thought that was definitely interesting with the how they related that to In Cold Blood. Thought that was really interesting. So he then he sees a safe in the basement, and the woman Fern and her mother Marie claim to not have it anymore, but they offer $9 from Marie's purse, and Marie says, take it and go, and Fern tells them that her father is away on business, and Buck menacingly aims a gun at them. But Chalky is just standing there. This whole time, he's just, standing there, and he's just trying to defuse the situation by asking her what grade she's in, and she said she's in 10th grade. So She's actually my age, which that was surprising. And Chalky knows from having children that if the girl doesn't go to school today, someone might send a truant officer around. And the mother agrees, yes, they're very vigilant, and Chalky is itching to leave. And Chalky says, get the green, and let's get out of here. But Bucky is not backing down. He's not really backing down here, and he's not done with what he wants to get that safe. He wants the food, he wants the safe, he wants money, so he's not done here. Fern and Marie claim to no longer have the safe because they've moved everything to a safe deposit box in the bank, and they have to go to the bank to get the valuables. Now, Chalky suggests they just forget it and just tie the women up and leave, and the father will find them when he returns home. And he and Buck will be long gone, but Buck refuses to give up. He's not giving up here. He doesn't seem to want to give up. So Buck, meanwhile, has fallen asleep in a rocking chair with the gun in his hand. And Marie and Fern are still in their nightgowns. They're tied up with the ropes, just like from that book, as I said. And it seemed that they were gonna die. I pretty much thought that they were gonna go completely. They were just gonna like kill them, and I thought that's what was gonna happen here. I thought that Chalky and Buck were just gonna kill the two of them, and I thought that's what was going to happen here. So Marie is trying to persuade Chalky to take the gun and leave, but Chalky tells her to shut her mouth because Marie can tell that Chalky's a little bit more civilized, a little bit more, just a more civilized person, which is true. He is a more civilized person, but at the same time, he is not, even though he is a civilized person, he's not really someone who, even though he is a civilized person, he's not really someone who is better or worse than Bucky. So they basically what ended up happening is Buck is pointing his gun at the hostage. So yeah, basically the mother said that she can tell that Chalky isn't like Buck, and someone approaches the house and then drops off a package. And Buck runs to the door to collect the package, and it contains a dress for Fern's spring formal. And Buck unties Fern and tells her to put it on. He wants her to put it on properly, and meaning he wants her to undress, and the mom does not want to watch her daughter do this for their captor. She jumps up and reveals the location of the safe is actually upstairs, and Buck smiles because he got what he wants. So, yeah, so they got what they want there. So Buck and Chalky are trying to break into the family safe, and they aren't having much luck, and Buck finally realizes this isn't the safe he remembers, and begins to think that the woman may have played him. And he says, you think I'm simple? They finally come clean. Basically, the husband and father left them, and that's really sad. And Buck pulls the gun on Fern. The mom breaks down, opens the safe, which only contains Liberty bonds from the war, and that wouldn't do Buck any good. So Chalky bashes Buck's head with a hammer, kills him, leaves him bleeding on the floor, and he leaves the family's home, which was really big, definitely. I was not expecting that at all, and that was definitely very surprising. I wasn't expecting that at all. I thought that was definitely huge. I mean, just, wow. I was not expecting that at all, and that was nuts. Again, because the violence, there wasn't a lot of violence in this episode, that was by far the most violent scene in the episode, and I like that Chalky did that because he actually cared about helping this family, especially because there was this one part of the episode that I forgot to say, where he talked to Fern, and it turns out that Fern is the same age as Maybelle, his daughter that was killed in the crossfire last year. So that really made him wanting to not kill this family. And when he did that, I'm like, okay, Chalky's not going to let this family die. He's not going to do that to them, and because he wouldn't do that to his daughter, so why would he do that to them? It just makes sense. He wouldn't do that to his daughter. But that was overall what happened in the episode. And overall, I love this episode. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I was into it the entire time. Everything flowed really well. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode. First of all, let's talk about Nucky. Nucky and Margaret are now going to be working together again. And Margaret, of course, is going to try to get some money from Nucky. Is Nucky going to give her the money? I'm wondering, is he actually going to give her the money? And we'll have to see what happens there. Also, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Narcisse did not seem to care what happened to him. So is he going to be upset that those Italian gangsters just shot his prostitutes, or is he really going to care? I don't know what's going to happen. If he's going to care or what's going to happen there, we'll have to see what happens. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Nucky, I really felt bad with his flashback. I like that they related the flashback though to what happened in the real life. I thought that was well done, and I'm wondering where else the flashbacks is going to go. I thought that was well done as well, and I like seeing Joe Kennedy now, because Joe Kennedy, if you think about it, is really all Nucky wants to be. What does Nucky want to do? He wants to get out of this gangster business, and Joe Kennedy is a guy who doesn't want to drink and everything, and he tried to get him interested in Bacardi rum. He tried to get him interested in that, but you know, Joe did not want to be interested in that, so I thought that was definitely very interesting. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there, definitely, especially because he's not really interested in helping Nucky. He's not interested in that, really. But overall, again, as I said, this episode was fantastic. Loved it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for Witch the V Stand. And again, let me know if you guys saw this episode. I'll see you guys in my next video. Okay, bye.